The cold reaches you before the morning does. You wake up before the light fully knows its way into the room. No one calls your name. No footsteps in the hallway, no soft knock, only the sound of wind pressing gently through a cracked shutter. The sheet beneath you smells like someone else, maybe someone who used to sleep here, maybe just the memory of warmth. The ceiling is high, like it forgot how to shelter. A wooden beam stretches across it, dark and quiet, like a scar too old to explain. No paintings. No clock, only bare walls, a thin blanket, and a room that never fully agreed to be yours. You sit up, the floor is cold, always cold. There are no slippers, there never are, because no one ever leaves them for you. You listen. Far below, a clock ticks, not urgently. Just existing. The house breathes, but not for you. You reach for the shawl near the door. It's thin, faded, smells like old perfume and a long-forgotten drawer. It once belonged to someone with a name, but names blur. And now, only you remember how it feels against your shoulders. You open the door. The hinge sighs. You wince, not from sound, but from the way it breaks the stillness. Stillness is safety. In this house, silence is your softest shield. You stand at the top of the stairs, but you don't go down. You just breathe. Listen, no one's coming. No one ever does. And you remember, like you always do, you live here, but you were never invited. If any of this feels like your own memory, then maybe you've always known this story was waiting. Some names sit on paper like dust sits on windowsills, forgotten until sunlight finds them. You were not born from their name. It was given to you, like a coat too large at the shoulders, too short at the arms. It appears on every document, stamped in ink. But names, like shutters in this house, can be locked from the inside. They don't say anything, they don't have to. You feel it in the way conversations change when your footsteps draw near. In the quiet tilt of a teacup, the quick glance at a clock that doesn't even tick, you are present, but not received. You are a branch on a tree they do not prune, because it's there on the family scroll, but no one waters it. On paper, you are theirs. In memory, you are a folded corner. In photographs, you are the blurred figure near the edge. In stories shared after dinner, you do not exist. You are an inheritance. Passed down with the furniture, handled with caution, cleaned but not touched. Acknowledged but not remembered. They don't say, "You are one of us." They say, "You're fortunate." Like a relic with no history, kept out of guilt, not love. There's a portrait in the dining room, a stern man with eyes that follow you, not with affection, but with surveillance. They say he built this place, brick by brick, wall by wall, but he never left a room for someone like you. Still, his name sits beside yours on every page, and that, to them, is proof enough of your place, not your voice. Not your laugh, just the paper trail. You've tried to trace that name in your own handwriting. But it never feels like yours. It wobbles, as if it knows it doesn't belong to your hand. Sometimes you hear them at night, behind closed doors, not loud, just enough for doubt to slip under. Not really one of ours. Wasn't meant to stay. What are we supposed to do? The house doesn't hide whispers. Its walls are too old. They breathe. They carry, so you fold yourself smaller. You nod before you're spoken to. You say thank you with every glance, every step, every breath, as if gratitude might buy you a few more minutes of belonging. You learn how to occupy silence like a guest who's stayed too long. You learn that love is not a given here. It is distant, visible across a hallway, seated at a separate table. You've seen it. In their smiles to each other, in the way they pass bread and stories, but not in how they speak to you. You wonder if love, like inheritance, needs blood to bloom, or if maybe it needs memory, and you, You are a name without memory. Some rooms remember what they were before they were asked to be bedrooms. Your room is not really a room. It's a space that feels borrowed. A leftover between walls, once meant for trunks or coats or forgotten boxes. Now it holds you, quietly but not kindly. They say it was fixed up. They don't say when. The ceiling still weeps when it rains. Soft drops tap the floor like someone pacing on the roof. The window doesn't close all the way, so the wind visits often, sometimes polite, sometimes insistent. In winter, the corners freeze first. You can feel it when you wake. A stillness that has nothing to do with peace. The cold sits like a guest that won't leave. It owns the floor before you do. The walls are uneven, their edges soft like damp bread. Once there was wallpaper, something with flowers or stripes, but it's long gone, stripped away without memory. Now just plaster, stained and dry in some places, dark with moisture in others. There's a crack behind the dresser. It sings when the wind comes in. You tried stuffing it with cloth, old socks, a bit of rags, but nothing muffles it. It's the kind of sound that finds its way into your dreams. The furniture doesn't match. The chair sinks to the left. The desk is chipped along the edge, sharp enough to catch a sleeve. The bed creaks if you breathe too hard, so you've trained yourself. Stillness is survival. Your pillow smells of mothballs and slow time. Sometimes you turn it over, hoping the underside will forget how long it's been here. It never does. But you still try. There's a box under the bed. Inside, a scarf, a comb, missing teeth, and a yellowed book with a name you don't recognize. Not your name, but someone's. You used to open it, gently. Last time, a page came loose and fluttered to the floor like it remembered something you didn't. You haven't touched it since. Some secrets don't want to be held. They said you could keep these things. But they were never really offered, just left and not taken back. A mirror leans against the far wall. The glass is cracked at one corner, like a frozen tear. You avoid it. Not because you don't want to see yourself, but because the reflection always looks like someone mid-disappearing, someone staying out of habit, not invitation. You don't hang clothes here. There's nowhere to hang them, just one hook by the door, bent forward like it grew tired of holding things. The floor creaks only when no one else is around. The dust collects faster here, maybe because no one expects the room to be seen. In the early morning, before the first creak of stairs below, you sit up. You breathe in the air, stale, dry, faintly bitter. You pull the shawl tighter around you. It doesn't warm, but it helps you pretend. And then you remember, quietly, like a habit. This is not yours, not the room, not the walls, not even the shadow you cast against the floor, but you stay. Because sometimes survival whispers, and leaving makes too much noise. Some mornings feel less like beginnings and more like reminders. You wake again, not from sleep, there was little of that, but from stillness. From the long pause between darkness and what pretends to be day. There is no knock at the door, no voice calling you down. Just the pale light folding softly through the torn edge of the curtain. And the cold, always the cold. It sits deep in your bones now, like it knows your name better than anyone else. You sit up, slowly. The blanket slips from your shoulders like a forgotten thought. The floor groans when your feet touch it, not in protest, but in recognition. As if the house itself wants to say, "You're not meant to linger here." You dress without sound, layer by layer, not for warmth, there is never enough of that. But to shape yourself, to remind your own reflection that you still exist. Same shirt. Frayed collar, loose thread at the sleeve, still hanging, still ignored. You glance at the corner of the room. The box under the bed hasn't moved, neither has the mirror, but both feel heavier today. You open the door. It sticks a little, then sighs open. The hallway is long, wrapped in quiet dust. A single painting watches you pass. A boy with golden hair, eyes like clear water. He floats inside a silver frame. You do not look back at him. The staircase is tired. Each step remembers more than it should, where joy used to tread. Where silence now settles, you take each one gently, like stepping through someone else's dream. You do not go to the dining room. You never do, unless someone calls you, and no one has. So you walk to the back of the house, to the little washroom meant for guests. Now it's yours, not by invitation, but by absence. The faucet coughs before the water arrives. You catch it in your hands, cold, silver, clean, but unforgiving. You breathe into your palms. You press the water to your face as if it might wake you into someone else. There is no towel, not yours at least, just the one hanging there, thin, nearly dry, fraying at the hem. You wipe your face, then your hands, on the inside of your sleeves. The mirror above the sink is cracked. You don't look into it, not because you're afraid of what's there, but because you already know. A boy with quiet eyes. A face too careful, someone borrowed, kept, but never claimed. The washroom smells faintly of old soap and stone. You breathe through it. Then turn off the light, though it barely worked anyway. You leave the room as you found it, not because anyone expects you to, but because silence weighs less than questions. Your day begins, not with welcome, not with warmth, just the soft echo of a truth you already carry. No one is waiting for you, and maybe no one ever was. Some mornings, hunger arrives before memory does. You hear them before you smell the food. Silver taps against porcelain. A chair moves, just enough to groan on the floor. Laughter, light and pointed, floats upward. None of it is meant for you. The dining room is 2 floors below, but the sound climbs the walls better than warmth ever has. You stand at the top of the stairs, still, listening. The wood beneath your feet doesn't creak. It knows you've practiced how to be quiet. 3 voices, maybe 4. No one says your name. You already know they won't. Down there, breakfast appears like ritual, blue and white china, never chipped. A kettle sings at 7:30, always. Butter softens in its glass dish. Jam is opened with a tiny silver spoon. Someone asks for honey. Someone else makes a joke about the rain. You don't go down. You never do unless you're summoned. And even then, you take the last seat and leave the first. This morning, as always, your breakfast isn't there. You walk toward the back, past the coat stand, past the mirror that pretends not to see you. Toward the smaller pantry, not the main one, where things are placed with care, but the one near the rear door, where forgetting gathers. You open it gently. There's half a roll, folded into a napkin as if it once mattered. It's cold, slightly dry. You take it without a plate. You've learned how not to leave crumbs. Beside it, an apple, soft at the base. You press your thumb gently. It yields, but doesn't collapse. Still good enough. You sit on the wooden bench by the back window. The view shows a brick wall, part of the garden gate, a rusted hinge. No flowers, no sky. It's not meant to be beautiful. You eat slowly, not because you're savoring, but because eating fast means it ends faster. Each bite is small, measured. Chewing too loudly might break something you can't afford to fix. You finish the roll. You save the apple core, because in this part of the house, there's no such thing as waste. A voice rises from below, muffled but distinct. "Where's he?" Another answers, "Still asleep, probably." Then a chuckle. Then forks. Then something else. The conversation moves on without needing you. You look down at your hands. Flour dust from the roll. A little juice from the apple. You rinse them in the utility sink, just water, no soap left. The towel's gone again, so you use your sleeve, inside edge. Always the same spot. Before leaving, you pause, not for thought, for silence. Because silence is safer than names. Silence means the floor is yours again. No one coming, no one looking, no one remembering you, forgot to smile. And so you rise, not with purpose, but with permission, from the quiet. Some doors aren't locked, they're just never meant for your hands. You step outside, not through the front doors. You've never touched those. You slip through the side one, the narrow, quiet one near the kitchen, where the stone is worn smooth by footsteps that don't get recorded. The door sticks slightly, then gives way with a soft wooden sigh. You breathe in the morning like a guest tasting unfamiliar tea. The garden greets you, not with joy, but like a neighbor who has seen you too often to be surprised. Familiar. Still, not unfriendly, but never quite warm. You walk slowly. Your heels land soft on the gravel, each step swallowed by dampness. The path curves. It always has. But no one follows it anymore, not all the way. The hedges have grown uneven, some too high, some thinning at the base. Someone used to trim them perfectly. That someone doesn't live here now. The grass is heavy with dew. It soaks through your shoes within minutes. Your socks press wetly against your skin. Not painful, but present. The air clings like a second shirt. Cool, breathable, almost kind. You pass the flower beds. They're bright, deliberate, but they face the house, not the path. Not for walkers, not for you. They exist to be admired from dining room windows. To suggest care, to suggest someone's watching. You pause near the old fountain. The water is barely more than a whisper, a trickle, like a thought half remembered. A stone near the base is cracked. You touched it once as a child, softly, curiously. Someone slapped your hand. You didn't cry. But you never touched it again. There's a bench near the edge of the garden, paint flakes from its arms like dry leaves. The iron frame sighs when you sit. It faces the back fence, not the house. You like it that way? The sun reaches the tips of the grass now. You let it warm your fingers. They stiffen less when held open. You tilt your face toward the light, not to bask, but to feel the weight of day begin. A dog crosses the far lawn. It doesn't bark. It never does. It glances at you, head level, eyes unreadable. Then moves on, quiet, unbothered. As if it understands, you're here, but not of here. Far off, near the rose bushes, the gardener moves, clippers in hand. His back curves gently with age or repetition. He sees you, nods once. Then returns to the task. No words, but the nod is something. More than you've been given by most. You sit longer than you mean to, but not because of comfort. Because of permission. Out here, there are no walls to echo names that aren't yours. No ceilings to remind you of belonging. Just air, and the occasional bird you never managed to spot in time. You close your eyes. Not to dream, but to rest the effort of seeing. Here, you don't have to be anything. Not part of, not included, not forgotten, just still. And stillness, for once, doesn't feel like waiting. It just is. Some footsteps aren't loud, but they carry more than sound. You hear them before you see them. Soft steps on stone. Measured, light, not rushed. No one here ever rushes. In a house like this, time does not chase anyone. It waits, quietly, behind velvet curtains. You don't move. Stillness is your shelter. The sun has slid further along the bench. Your arms feel its warmth, but your knees remain in shadow. That's often how warmth finds you, partially. They come into view from the far path, two figures, framed by hedge and morning mist. The children of the house. Your cousins, technically. Though the word feels soft in the mouth and sharp in the mind, it doesn't settle right. They wear pale things, shirts without wrinkles, shoes without mud. Their voices float, just above a whisper, meant to be private but never quite silent. One glances toward you, quick. Not unfriendly, but with the same look you give a door you don't need to open. You lower your eyes. You've learned the rhythm here. Eye contact is currency, and you were not given any. They pass. No words, no mockery. But no good morning either. Just silence, trimmed like the hedges they walk beside. You hear one murmur. Is he always out here this early? A shrug answers. Then nothing. Their footsteps fade down the gravel path, softening like a secret being tucked away again. You remain seated, hands resting gently in your lap, as if holding a bird that hasn't decided whether it trusts you. You think of standing, of slipping back through the side door. But instinct keeps you here, not fear, just timing. You've learned to wait long enough for others to turn corners, so you're never accused of following. A breeze stirs the air. It smells of wet stone, faded lavender, and something older, maybe soil, maybe history. You breathe it in the way you've learned to breathe everything here, quietly, without announcement, without assuming it's yours. The bench creaks a little beneath you. The sun touches your fingers now. They've gone pale from the cold, but they do not tremble. Not yet. You glance down. There's dirt beneath your nails. Faint, dry. You don't recall where it came from. Perhaps the edge of a pot. Perhaps the base of that cracked stone near the fountain. But the dirt stays. A quiet reminder that something real passed through your hands, even if no one noticed, even if it didn't leave a mark anywhere else. Some rooms hold you not with walls, but with the memory of being almost welcomed. You return to the house by the side steps, not because you were called. No one calls, but the sun has grown too bold for the bench, and the garden no longer hides you. The kitchen door is propped open. Warm air spills out, smelling of broth and something sharp, maybe vinegar, maybe lemon. A pot trembles on the stove, hissing slightly. You step around it like you've done so many times before. The floor tiles know your feet. No one looks up. A spoon scrapes. A tray is lifted. Someone walks past with arms full of folded napkins. You're not invisible, just expected. Like steam, like the broom in the corner. You move through the corridor, past the low cupboard with the loose hinge, past the faded portrait of someone unnamed but framed anyway. Toward the library. It's the only room you're allowed to sit in, uninterrupted, as long as no one important needs it. As long as you don't touch the newer volumes, as long as you leave no trace, you push the door open gently. The air smells of old paper, dry wood, and once-worn leather, a warm smell, or maybe just a remembered one. You walk the rows, not to read. Reading isn't always the point. You let your fingers brush the spines, soft, dusty. Familiar. Names you don't recognize, stories you haven't been given. But they exist, and you are near them. That is enough sometimes. You choose a corner, a chair where the sun doesn't quite reach. You sit. Not deeply, just perched, like the room might change its mind. Then, a voice. Not loud, not cruel, just full. Like a cup too close to the brim. There he is. You turn, carefully. One of them, a woman. An aunt, you think. She stands in the doorway, framed in morning shadow, holding a glass that catches the light too easily. Something pale inside. Something expensive. She smiles. It's a practiced smile. Perfect for company, round at the corners, shiny. But it lands anyway. How's our boy this morning? You blink. Our boy. The phrase arrives like a folded coat placed over your shoulders. Not warm, not yours. But there, you nod, say something small. Fine, thank you. Words you've stored for these moments. Words meant to end conversations quickly. She's already looking past you. Already speaking to someone you can't see. Already thinking about lunch. The glass in her hand reflects more attention than her eyes do. She leaves. The door swings gently shut, as if to keep the moment from spilling further. Silence returns. Not suddenly, just slowly, like dust settling. You sit still, unsure if you imagined it. But the words are still there. Our boy. You don't wear them. Not really. You carry them for a while, like a jacket draped over your arm. Not meant for the weather, not stitched for your shape, but offered all the same. Eventually, the weight fades. Or you stop noticing it. Either way, you are alone again. With the books. With the lightless chair. And with a story you might never be allowed to open. Some mornings begin not with alarm, but with absence. You leave the house through the side gate. The latch sticks, as always, but you don't mind. You know how to press and lift at the same time. You've learned the ways things don't open easily. The main car is already gone. It always is. Your cousins ride together. Crisp uniforms, polished shoes, a driver who never looks surprised. The door opens before they reach it. Their days begin with someone waiting. You walk. The road to school curves along a low stone wall. You know each crack, each missing piece of fence. There's a cat that sometimes follows you, black with one torn ear. Not today. The sky hangs gray, not enough for rain. Just enough to make every shadow longer than it should be. You arrive early. You always do. Not from eagerness, but from knowing no one will wait for you. Inside, the building hums with slow warmth. It touches the windows, but not you. You move through the hall like a breath the room forgot to hold. You sit second row from the back, not first, not last. A place between invisibility and invitation. Your handwriting is straight, your answers come when asked. You know the rhythm, not too quick, not too proud, just right enough to pass unnoticed. At lunch, you sit by the window. The glass is slightly fogged. Outside, children run across the yard. Inside, laughter braids itself around tables. You are not alone, but you are not with them. You unwrap your lunch, brown paper folded neatly from the night before, a slice of dry bread, a boiled egg. The same apple you didn't finish this morning, you eat slowly, not for pleasure, but to fill the space between bells. Around you, sandwiches are traded, cookies split. Jokes shared, secrets passed like folded notes. No one asks what you have. You never offer. Afterward, a list is read aloud. Top scores. Your name is there. Again, a teacher nods. Once, briefly, no smile. Just the kind of look that says, well done, now disappear again. There's a prize, a book wrapped in green cloth. But it goes to someone else. Their name sounded better on the list. You don't ask. You never do. You already know the rules no one explains. The day folds quietly. Pages turned, papers passed back, coats gathered. You walk home as the sky begins to close. Your shoes click louder on the stone now, not because you walk harder, but because evening makes everything sound a little more like memory. You do not hurry, you never have. The road is the same, but you feel it differently on the way back. Not because you're sad, but because light softens, and your footsteps, just for a moment, belong to the world more than you do. Some meals are served without being offered, and still feel like permission. You come back through the side door, it sticks less than it used to. You know where to press with your palm. The hinges groan softly, like clearing their throat, but no one hears. It's late. Late enough that lunch in the main dining room is over. From beyond the hall, you hear the soft echo of plates being stacked, metal on porcelain, a spoon dropped, the sound of someone laughing politely at something not quite funny. No one asks where you were. No one wonders if your shoes are damp or if your hands are cold. They are, but that's not the sort of thing anyone here asks about. The kitchen smells of stew, thick and familiar. Onions, pepper, a trace of something sweet. You stand near the back wall, just far enough to be out of the way. but close enough to be remembered. You've learned the rhythm of this house, when to appear, when to wait, when to become part of the background until someone needs something moved. A plate appears. Placed near the servant's table, not offered, just set down. No words. But it's for you. You sit, across from the housekeeper's boy, beside the cook's assistant. They don't speak much either, but one nods. And that is enough. The plate is warm. Potatoes, a small cut of meat, bread with the edge slightly burnt. It's not much, but it is yours. You eat slowly. Not to savor, but because eating too quickly makes sound, and sound invites eyes, and eyes make you forget how to swallow. One of the maids walks past. She places a glass of water by your side, doesn't speak, doesn't glance. But the way she sets it down, careful even, feels like kindness. There is tenderness in the details. A folded napkin, a second spoon that no one mentions, a bowl scraped clean before it reaches you. You eat everything, you always do, even the crumbs. Even the dry edge of bread, because hunger is quiet, but memory is quieter. You help clear the table when it ends. No one asks you to, but you'd rather be useful than visible. On your way back, you pass the hallway where the family sits. Voices rise and blend. Talk of letters, of travel, of what should happen when the old man is gone. No one says your name, but you stop. Just for a moment, long enough to catch a fragment of story. Someone tracing the family tree out loud, speaking of inheritance, of legacy, of names carved into wood and stone. And for a breath, you wonder, if your name had been spelled differently, would it echo in this hallway too? You walk away before the thought finishes, because hunger fades, but longing, that lingers even when your hands are full. Some memories live in fabric and wait for hands that hesitate. You go back upstairs. The light in the hallway has changed. Afternoon stretches it into long, faded lines. Dust drifts slowly through it, as if trying not to disturb anything. Your steps are soft. Always have been. Even now, you move like a guest still hoping for invitation. Your door sticks. It always does when the air is heavy. The wood swells. No one fixes it. It groans a little as you push it open, not with complaint, but with memory. Inside, the room feels colder, not the kind of cold that bites, just the kind that reminds. You pull the curtain aside, just enough for the gray light to enter. It paints the quilt in a soft pattern of shadow. You sit at the edge of the bed. Your fingers press into the blanket, tracing the stitching. There's a loose thread near the corner. You wind it around your finger, then let it fall again. Like so many things in this house. The air smells like wood, old linen, and something almost gone. A scent that clings to silk. Perfume, the kind left behind by someone who didn't mean to leave forever. You glance at the closet. It's always been there, quiet, holding what no one talks about. You stand, walk to it, open the door gently. Inside, a coat, dark blue, velvet at the collar. Buttons that shine like small coins in shadow. You've looked at it before, many times. From a distance, as if it belonged to a ghost who still might return. But today, something is different. You reach for it. Your fingers touch the sleeve. The fabric is cool. Heavier than it looks. And then, just this once, you slip your arms into it. It doesn't fit. Not really. The shoulders are too wide. The cuffs swallow your wrists. But still you stand. The cracked mirror catches your reflection. A shape. Taller, older, like someone who might one day have a key to the front door. Almost. You stay there, still. Listening. The coat holds its weight on your shoulders, soft but firm, like it remembers someone else's shape. Then, the floor creaks. Behind you, just the house shifting, but it breaks the stillness. You slip the coat off carefully, Not rushed, not guilty. Just aware. You hang it back. Wooden hanger. Slight tilt to the left, as if even the coat doesn't quite belong now. You close the door. It's not shame. Not quite, just the quiet knowing that even dreams must respect walls. You return to the bed. The thread still curls in the corner. You don't touch it again. The mirror catches a sliver of you as you sit. You're not wearing the coat anymore, but the weight of it lingers on your arms, as if fabric could leave memory behind. You breathe. The room does too, and for a moment, a quiet, unnoticed moment, you feel almost real. Some aches arrive quietly, like fog slipping under a door. You're not sure when it starts. Not exactly. Just a slow tightness behind the ribs, a weight in your throat that makes no sound. Your eyes feel heavier than your bones. Each breath pulls deeper, as if your body is looking for something it misplaced. You lie on the bed. Afternoon light spills faintly through the curtain. It doesn't reach the floor. It barely touches your feet. Your hands feel too large today, detached somehow. You fold them on your chest, then move them to your sides. Nothing feels right. Your legs shift under the blanket, searching for each other, for warmth they don't have. You press heel to ankle, ankle to shin, as if friction could pretend to be care. No one knocks. No one will. This house isn't built for concern. The ache settles slowly, not sharp, not loud, just present. Like steam in a closed room, you feel it in your jaw, behind your eyes, between your shoulders. Your breath whistles on the exhale. Not enough to worry anyone, just enough for you to notice. You don't cough. Even illness here must remain polite. Time blurs. You don't sleep. But your body leaves for a while, a kind of stillness that isn't rest, just the absence of motion. At some point, you hear a sound, barely a clink. Ceramic on wood. Someone has left a cup on the table, not near your pillow. Not in your hands, just close enough to be noticed, but far enough not to assume. You sit up slowly, joints resist, a muscle pulls. You don't sigh. You've learned not to waste sound. The cup still steams, but only slightly, not fresh. Not hot, just warm enough to say, someone thought about this. A little too late. No note. No name, no eyes waiting for thanks. Just the cup. You lift it. The tea is bitter, thin. The kind meant to fix something, not comfort it. You drink it slowly. Because it's here, because effort deserves to be finished. As the warmth slips down your throat, you wonder about the people below. If someone saw your face that morning, if someone said, he didn't look well, if someone whispered, leave him some tea, you wonder if your name was spoken, even once. Even softly, even wrong. You set the empty cup back on the table. It makes no sound. You curl again under the thin blanket. The ache hasn't left. But it has quieted. Your head pulses gently, like a clock that doesn't tick loud enough to be heard, but still keeps time. And for now, that's enough. Some houses don't need locks to make you feel unwelcome. They use silence instead. You've never been told the rules. Not out loud, not on paper, but they live in you now, like posture. Like breath. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't ask for anything twice. Don't eat the last slice. Don't look too long. Don't sit too close. Don't cry where the echo can carry. And never, ever assume you're wanted. You carry these rules in your spine. They guide your hands, your step, the way your eyes never rest too long on anyone's face. Some days you imagine breaking one, not loudly. Just enough to be noticed. Taking a second helping, opening a door without knocking. Sitting in the good chair. Would they speak? Would they scold? Would they send you away? You don't know. And the not knowing is worse than the worst answer. So you don't? You walk through the house like it's under construction. Every hallway unfinished. Every glance a test you didn't study for. Once you dropped a plate. It slipped, just slipped. No sound before, only after. Porcelain shattered against stone. Everyone turned. No one spoke. No one touched you. No one needed to. For days, your towels were folded a little too tight. Your seat was moved half an inch away from the table. Someone placed your tea on a napkin, like a barrier. Small things, not cruel, just precise. And you understood, be careful, stay in place. You hold your breath more often than necessary. You say thank you for things no one gave. You clean what you didn't use. You apologize when silence breaks. The fear doesn't arrive like a storm. It seeps. Through your fingers, behind your knees, into your shadow. You feel it when your hand touches a doorknob and hesitates. You feel it when someone says your name, not sharply, but flat, like a decision has been made without your voice. It's not that they've threatened you, it's that they've promised nothing. And in this place, silence feels like a clock with no hands. You live inside the pause, that split second between sentences, where everything could change. Sometimes at night, you wake because the house creaks wrong. You sit up, listen, wonder if today is the day they remember they never meant to keep you, but the house settles, and you breathe again. Just enough to fall back into stillness, just enough to survive another day of almost belonging. Some absences are louder than silence, especially the ones behind glass. You walk the upstairs hallway in the late afternoon. The light is soft now, tilted sideways, golden, brushed with the kind of warmth that forgets quickly. It lands on the floor in long slats, as if asking permission to stay. This is the hallway with the portraits. Everyone knows that. Everyone slows down here, whether they mean to or not. You don't plan to stop, you never do. But something always catches you, pulls your gaze left toward the wall. There they are, hung in perfect rhythm. Black and white, sepia, soft color. Mothers beside sons, fathers with daughters. Hands placed right, shoulders squared, smiles that look like they were practiced once too often. The frames are heavy, gilded, dark. They shine when the sun hits just right, like now. You step a little closer, only half a step, just enough to read the names beneath some of them. You were there that summer, the picnic in the orchard. Your shirt was too big. You held a plate of cherries, sticky fingers, juice on your palm. You remember laughter and a voice saying, "Step aside, just for a moment," just until they had one clean frame. One good family shot. You stepped aside, the moment stretched. And no one called you back. You blink, move on. A Christmas photo, matching pajamas, fireplace lit just enough to make the room glow. You were on the stairs, gift in your lap, watching them unwrap theirs, not in the picture, not even a blur. No motion, no shadow. It's not forgetting. It's absence by design. Another frame, a wedding, everyone younger, the bride's mouth open in laughter. You remember the knock on the hallway door? How you'd pressed your hands to the cold glass to peek through? Someone bumped into you, didn't say sorry? You remember the scent of the flowers, lilies, crisp, strong. Too strong, but the photo doesn't remember. None of them do. You scan each frame slowly, looking for proof. A corner of a jacket, a shoe. Even a shadow on the grass. There is nothing. And that is the clearest truth of all. You were there, not forgotten, just never included, not erased. Just omitted. Your fingers twitch at your side, not from anger. Just a quiet ache, like pressing a bruise to be sure it's still there. You imagine what it would feel like to be in one of these frames, to take up space on a wall, to be dusted once a week by someone who speaks your name out loud. But you are not there, not in sepia. Not in shadow. You step back, not out of respect. Just habit. And as you walk on, light shifting behind you, you wonder if someone, someday, will pass this hall and feel what you feel now. a shape that should be there. But isn't. Not all memories hurt, some just hum softly, like a song you almost remember. There is one memory you return to. Not often, not because it hurts, but because it almost doesn't. It was a trip, a small one, a single day, maybe two. To the coast, or maybe a lake, you don't remember the name, only the feeling. They let you ride in the car. Not the front seat, of course not beside anyone. But in the back, beside the bags, on the blanket laid out to keep sand from staining the leather. No one spoke to you directly, but no one told you to stay home, either. And that, strangely, felt like permission. You watched the trees blur through the window, watched the light change shape as it filtered through the canopy. The road curved gently. The car smelled like oranges and sunscreen. Someone laughed. Not at you, just in your presence. And the silence in the car wasn't heavy. It was full, like the pause before the first line of a story. At the beach, you didn't run. Didn't shout, didn't jump waves like the others. You stayed near the edge, where the water only touched your toes, where the sand was packed hard and cool. But someone handed you a towel. Someone asked if you wanted lemonade, and just once, you said yes. You laughed that day. Not loudly, just enough for someone to turn and glance, and in that moment you thought maybe, just maybe, they saw you. That hope stayed with you longer than it should have. Later, when they posed for photos near the dock, you hovered nearby, not asked to join, but not told to leave, so you stood just behind them, smiled anyway. Just in case. The sun was bright, the air tasted of salt and grass and something sweet you couldn't name. Your shirt was damp at the hem, your feet sunk gently into the sand. You remember the ride home. How the car windows were cracked, how wind played with your hair, how your back pressed into the folds of the blanket as the road hummed beneath the wheels. You remember watching the sky dim, colors fading from blue to silver. Back home, they made an album. Thick pages. Glossy photos. Everyone captured mid-laugh, mid-splash. Joy paused in time. You looked through it, once, twice. Carefully, you weren't in any of them, not one. No reflection, no edge of a sleeve, no blurred motion in the background. It was as if the day had edited you out gently, without malice, without notice. Just omitted. And somehow, that felt deeper than being forgotten, because you were there. You remember the smell of seaweed drying on warm rocks. You remember the tickle of salt on your lips. You remember how the lemonade was too tart, but you drank it anyway, because it was yours. You remember everything, because sometimes the memory lasts longest in the one who wasn't kept. Not all doors are locked. Some just never open when you're near. The house has rooms you've never seen, not locked. Not hidden, just not for you. You know them by their sounds, not their names. The drawing room, especially. It hums in the evenings, low, warm, alive. Glasses clink like conversation. Laughter folds into velvet, rolling across carpets too soft for your shoes. You pass that door slowly. Always slowly, not because you're curious, but because the sound holds you. It's not music, not voices, but something in between, the comfort of being allowed. You've never been inside. You don't ask. Once, long ago, you lingered. Just long enough, just close enough. A voice said, "Can someone close that, please?" And the door shut, quietly. Completely. You didn't mean to stay. You were just listening. To how their lives made noise without shame. How their laughter didn't check the volume before rising. They laughed like winter couldn't find them. Like their names would echo after they were gone. Downstairs, near the cellar, the air is cooler. It smells like cherry and smoke and something older, like secrets kept in bottles. You never stop there, but you remember once. A tray was left outside. 6 glasses. Half full, lipstick marks like fingerprints. You touched one. Just your finger on the rim, just enough to feel what they held so easily. You were 12. A hand didn't slap yours. Worse, it hovered, eyes locked on yours until you dropped your arm. And in that stillness you learned, not all punishment is loud. Some things you don't have to steal to be made sorry for touching. Upstairs there's a music room. You've never seen it, but sometimes, when the doors are open, notes fall through the stairwell, soft and slow, like they're searching for someone to impress. You don't want to hear. But you do, because the sound always finds you. It wraps around the corners of your room, slides beneath your door, lingers like something beautiful you're not supposed to name. The music is never rehearsed, never clumsy. It plays like someone knows they're being heard, and you listen. Not because you belong to it, but because it reminds you what not belonging feels like. You walk hallways with precision, knowing where light fades, where rugs begin, where your voice shouldn't rise. These rooms were never forbidden, but they were never opened either. And sometimes that difference cuts deeper than a locked door. You are not trespassing, but you are not expected. You pass like a draft, a sound between sounds. Once, someone told a story about a ghost in the house, a boy who walked without making sound. You smiled. Just a little, not because you believe in ghosts, but because you know how easy it is to live unseen in the very heart of things. Some kindness is served warm, right when the light forgets to stay. It happens in the kitchen, late afternoon. The hour when sunlight thins, light becomes pale, and the edges of everything soften. You're not supposed to be here, but you walk in anyway, quietly, carefully, like a breeze slipping through a cracked door. The cook is humming, soft tune, wordless, like steam rising from a warm oven. You recognize the melody, something familiar, yet nameless. She doesn't stop, but she doesn't turn away. You stand near the doorway, hands folded in front of you, feet pressed together, shoulders to the wall. Quiet, small, you wait. The cook moves. She opens a tin, reaches in, pulls out a pastry, still warm, still soft. The scent drifts to you, cinnamon, maybe apple, a sweetness you haven't smelled in a while. She wraps it in a napkin, thin, soft, almost translucent, one from the drawer that's only for moments like this. Then, without a word, she presses it into your hand. Your palm holds it. Your fingers close around it slowly, afraid it might vanish. Afraid it might not be real. You don't speak. You don't know how. So you whisper, "Thank you," quiet enough to hold the moment in your throat. She nods, just a nod. Not polite, not dismissive, but enough. Recognition. You watch her turn back to her work. The humming resumes. Steam climbs from the pot, and the moment ends, but you still hold it. In your hand, on your palm, inside your chest. You don't eat it now. You carry it upstairs, cradled like it's made of glass. Your footsteps are soft. You feel the pastry shift with each careful step. It smells sweeter now. On your bed, you sit. You place the pastry on the quilt, warm thread pressing into your back. You unwrap it slowly, peeling the napkin away. Steam rises, curling, dancing. It smells like hope. Your hands hover before you bite. You take the first morsel with care. Warmth spreads through your mouth. Cinnamon swirls, a little sweetness. It fills something deeper than a stomach. The hunger inside you. The one for being seen, for being remembered. That hunger tastes good today. You close your eyes. The quiet of the kitchen lingers. You taste kindness. For a few minutes, nothing else exists but that pastry and that soft acknowledgement. Then the taste fades, but the memory stays, warmer than the oven's glow. Because in a house full of absences, even the smallest kindness becomes a story you carry. A quiet warmth that lingers when all lights are out. Some things are easier to burn than to believe. At night, the house settles. Not asleep, just still. Its bones creak softly as if remembering how to rest. The walls sigh in slow rhythms. Pipes hum beneath the floorboards, tuned to a lullaby only old houses know. Your room is dim. The candle near your bed flickers, not from wind, but from fatigue. You sit at your desk, elbows light on the wood worn smooth. The drawer opens with a gentle scrape. Inside, a notebook. Plain, edges frayed, cover soft from touch. It smells faintly of dust and pencil shavings. No one knows about it. Not because you've hidden it well, but because no one ever looks closely enough to notice. You open to a blank page. The paper breathes back at you. Thin. Waiting. You choose the pencil, never a pen. Pens are permanent, and permanence is dangerous. The tip touches the paper. You don't write full sentences, not today, not ever, really. You just let pieces slip out. I am here. I am still here. Today I walked past them. No one looked. The cook gave me something warm. I didn't cry. If I disappeared, would they notice the silence? Each line sits with its own weight, heavier on the page than in your chest. You pause. The candle bends. Its shadow dances on the wall, tall and trembling. You read the words again. Not to remember, but to release them. And then you begin to tear. One page. Then the next. You fold them, halved, then halved again, until the paper becomes a secret that fits in your palm. You hold it. Like something living, like something ashamed of being known. You light the corner. It curls, browns, darkens, vanishes. Ash falls into the little bowl beside your books. The one that used to hold loose pins. Now it holds remains. The smell of smoke fills the room. Soft, bitter, private. You press your thumb into the warm ash, then wipe it on your sleeve. The paper's gone. The weight remains. You place the notebook back into the drawer. Slide it shut, not because you've said enough, but because there's nothing else that feels safe to say. The flame flutters, then steadies. You look at the candle and wonder if it will burn out before you fall asleep. You don't mind if it does. Some nights are better left in the dark. You lie back on the bed, arms across your chest like you're holding something in. Your eyes stay open just long enough to feel the house breathe with you. And in the hush between heartbeats, you promise yourself, tomorrow, maybe you'll write again, maybe not, but tonight, you've let something go. And sometimes that's the most anyone can do in a house where silence is safer than truth. Some existences are carved between quiet steps, not in sound made, but in sound avoided. You follow the rules, not because they were ever taught to you, but because they shaped your steps from the beginning. You move like furniture, useful, quiet, out of the way. So practiced in disappearing, you almost forget how to be seen. Your tone remains soft, restrained, gently haunting, a lullaby of absence. You've learned how to walk without sound. Feet sliding over floorboards like a shadow, orchestrating the absence of creaks, each step measured, remembered. You've learned to open doors gently, fingertips easing the latch without the weight of your hand, closing them without a click. One silent motion at a time. You've learned to set a cup on a table so quietly the air doesn't flinch. You've learned which floorboards complain, usually near the top of the stairs. Which stairs to skip, where a single footfall might carry your presence into rooms meant for others. You know the shelter of shadows and how to stay inside them. No one taught you this, but the house did. It taught you with glances, brief enough to be polite, but not long enough to give away interest. It taught you with silences, those empty spaces where you should have spoken but didn't. It taught you in the lull between one breath and the next, when someone looked your way, then looked away. You dress in colors that blend with wallpaper, gray, blue, silent tones. You step aside before being asked. You speak only when the room forgets to keep you quiet. Even the dog no longer barks. He lifts his head, glances at you, and rests it back down. That feels like progress. There are mirrors in the hall. But you don't stop at them, not from shame. You're just not looking for proof. You already know what's missing. You've become efficient, like a drawer that opens and never sticks. Like a coat, always hung up, neatly, correctly. Not because someone praised you, but because you know you aren't allowed to slip. They don't ask much of you, but if they did, you know exactly how to nod. How to hold a tray without it tipping. How to listen without turning your face. There's a kind of pride in that, a shape carved by silence. But sometimes, when you walk through the garden at dusk, the sky turning the same quiet gray as your shirt, even the trees forgot you were there. You wonder, if you disappeared completely, if your silence became absolute, how long would it take before someone noticed that something soft and still was missing? You don't finish the question. You only pause. Just a breath that almost sounds like stepping. Soft steps. No sound. Like always, winter doesn't ask permission. It settles in, room by room, until some spaces belong only to cold. Winter arrives slowly in this house. It doesn't knock. It doesn't rush. It seeps in, through cracks in window frames, beneath doors, through flaws that no one ever bothers to seal. It comes quietly but deliberately. A presence, an uninvited guest that remains long after the others have gone. The family moves through the season wrapped in wool. Their coats are lined with warmth, fur scarves brushed soft against necks. Fires glow in parlors, kitchens, even bathrooms. Every room but yours. You notice hallway walls gleam warmer when they walk by. Their footsteps leave echoes of comfort behind. You stay upstairs, mostly. Your room holds the cold. It always has. Near your desk, a small electric heater hums. Its wires vibrate louder than a whisper. When footsteps approach down the hall, you pull the plug. Silence is still safer than heat. Your blanket is thin, enough if folded tight. You tuck it under your legs, press hands between knees for warmth. At night, you dress in layers. Shirt, sweater, jacket, not modesty, but survival. In the early morning, you breathe. White mist curls from your lips, fragile proof that you are still here. Still breathing. In the kitchen, you linger beside the stove, hands hovering in the warmth, never touching the surface. Just standing near enough. You know the heat doesn't belong to you, but sometimes the stove forgets. There was a moment in the west room. You lingered by a fireplace, the lighters set askew in the hearth. Just for a moment, for the warmth to press your face. Someone entered quietly. You felt their breath before you saw them. They struck a match, refreshed the flame. Walked away without speaking. The fire settled. You did not remain to feel it. Now your fingers are cracked, knuckles reddened, skin tight when you make a fist. You do not complain, because complaining doesn't thicken stew, doesn't warm blankets. Doesn't make them remember your presence. So you say nothing, bury your hands in coat sleeves. Breathe into your collar, like trying to inhale warmth into bones. The cold is honest. It does not tease. It merely states fact. This place is not for you. Yet it does not break you, because you have learned to survive it. Like a plant that bends toward the dimmest light, or an ember that glows beneath ash. Tonight, as you lie between thin quilts, you imagine tomorrow's dawn. The heater humming back to life, a small victory against deep winter. You hold that thought as you drift off, soft warmth in your chest, not from fire, but planted inside. Because in silence, in cold, you are still here. There's a kind of loneliness so quiet, it echoes only in your bones. You used to think you were the only one, that this silence was yours alone. That this corner of the world, this attic, this hallway, this cold, was a mistake that only happened once. You thought maybe it was something in you, a flaw too quiet to name. A shadow that kept you from being seen fully. But lately you've begun to wonder. You hear stories. Not full ones, just pieces, carried in whispers between servants. Passed like thread through quiet rooms, soft, half-finished sentences that slip under doors and float in stairwells. You catch fragments. Another boy in the house on East Hill. A girl they keep upstairs in the Redstone estate. Never eats with the family, poor thing. And suddenly the world widens. Not brighter, not kinder, just wider. You begin to imagine them. The other ones. The almost heirs. The not quite children. The invisible guests in their own bloodlines. You picture a girl sitting on a narrow windowsill, her back pressed to the cold glass, braiding her own hair because no one else will. A boy practicing his handwriting by candlelight, each letter careful, beautiful, though no one will ever read it. A child pressing a cheek to a closed door just to hear the laughter on the other side. Their breath fogs the knob. They wipe it quickly, as if their presence might leave a stain. You don't know their names, they probably don't know yours. But you feel them. In the way your breath catches when someone says family and doesn't mean you. In the way your hands fold, quietly, when someone important walks by. In the way you keep every kindness like a secret you're afraid someone might take back. Sometimes you wonder if they're also cold, if they also sleep with their socks on, wrapped in blankets too thin, dreaming in silence. You think about the houses they live in. Are their windows stuck? Do their doors creak the same? Does their soup taste like yours? Watery, careful, but warm. You imagine a boy leaning over a table, writing a sentence he won't show anyone. I am here. You imagine a girl sitting near a vent, listening to a piano she's never allowed to touch. You imagine someone just like you, miles away, at this very hour, watching a flame flicker, wondering if anyone else feels the same cold in their bones. You've never seen their faces, but somehow you know their posture. You know the way their eyes scan rooms for a corner where they won't be asked to move. You know how they keep their voices small, not because they're afraid, but because they've learned no one asks louder children to stay longer. And in that knowing, you find something strange, not comfort. Not hope, but recognition. You are not alone in being left out. There are others like you, scattered like unclaimed letters, unwritten into the stories their houses love to tell. And while that doesn't change the cold, it does soften it. Because now, when you sit by the window and say nothing, you imagine someone else miles away, doing the same. They sit still. They breathe in silence. They hold their hands together like something might slip between their fingers if they move too quickly. And in that stillness between you, you both exist. Quietly, absolutely. Some absences feel too exact to be accidents. They never talk about her. Not directly, not kindly. Not cruelly either, just not at all. And silence, in this house, is louder than speech. You've never seen her name on a letter. Never found her face in an album, but still you wonder, was there a woman once who held you before this house ever did? Who whispered something only you heard? Who touched your face and didn't flinch? You don't know if she was a servant? Or a visitor? Or someone they called a mistake? Maybe she worked in the kitchen once. Maybe she walked away. Maybe she never had the choice. All you have is the trace. A glance exchanged between the adults when your name is mentioned. A pause. A quiet recalculation of the room. And once, only once, you heard one of them say, "She should never have been brought into this." She, not you, but someone they don't name. You remember that. You remember the way the room felt colder afterward. like the air itself regretted listening. Sometimes, when you're alone, you speak to her, not out loud, but in the way your eyes land on empty chairs, in the way you press your hand to your chest, just over the place where comfort might have lived. You imagine her hair, long or short, dark or light. You imagine her voice, firm, maybe, or tired. You imagine her hands, rough, warm, trembling. You picture her watching you through a crack in the hallway door as you walked past in silence. Maybe she reached out once, maybe she pulled back. You don't know. But sometimes, when the wind moves a certain way through the cracks in your window, you swear you hear a breath that isn't yours. There are moments your body seems to remember more than your mind does. The curve of your palm when you hold a spoon, the way your left shoulder dips under weight, the softness in your voice when you whisper anything. It feels borrowed. You look in the mirror sometimes, not for yourself, but for signs, the tilt of your eyes, the bend in your brow, the shape of your chin. Whose are they? Did she have your voice? Your temper? Your way of being quiet and present and slightly elsewhere? You'll never know. But you wonder if someone else in this house does. If, when they see you from the side, they pause, just slightly, because they see her, and then keep walking. You've never found a letter, never a scrap of handwriting, but once, in the attic, you found a small comb. Wooden, smooth with use, tucked in an old drawer with nothing else around it. You ran your thumb along the teeth, and for a moment, you felt something stir, like a voice too old to speak. You didn't take the comb, you left it, but you visit it sometimes. Just to check, just to remember. You place your hand on the windowsill. The paint is chipped, the wood cold. Outside, the wind moves gently through the trees. Leaves scrape the glass like fingers that never knocked. You close your eyes and pretend someone is doing the same on the other side of time, neither of you speaking. Both of you knowing that something was severed long ago, that something still lingers. A presence so faint it has no name, but it is yours. She is not a story in this house. Not a name to be remembered, but in you, in your quiet, in your waiting, in your wondering. She still breathes, even if no one else hears it. You do, and that sometimes is almost enough. There are eyes in this house that no longer see the present, but they see you. They don't say much anymore, the old ones, the ones who sit in heavy chairs by the fireplace, wrapped in wool and memory. They don't attend dinners often, don't write letters, don't join the small performances of family life, the toasts, the laughter, the careful mentions of legacy. But they watch, from corners, from behind teacups, from windows that fog in the morning. And when you pass them in the hallway, they see you, not in the way others do, not as an afterthought, not as a reminder of something inconvenient. They see through you, into you, past you. And you feel it. That pause, that slow blink of recognition. That moment where their eyes soften, not with pity, but with memory. As if they've worn the same silence you carry now. You pass one of them in the drawing room once. The air smells of lavender and paper. The fire hisses gently in the grate. The carpet muffles your steps. He's staring into the flames. Eyes dull, but not empty. Hands resting on the arms of his chair, fingers curled like question marks. You slow your steps. Not enough to stop, just enough to listen. He speaks without looking at you. His voice is rough, used rarely, carved from old wood. He says, "Some rooms forget more than others. That's all. No explanation, no follow-up. No name." You nod, though he doesn't see it, and walk on. Later, another, a woman with silver hair braided tight, skin like pressed linen, brushes past you in the hallway. She moves slowly, as though the air resists her out of respect. There's a scent on her, rosewater and dust. She doesn't smile, but she lifts one hand, briefly, as if to touch your shoulder. She doesn't. She lets it drop. But you felt the thought of it. You remember, she once lived in the East Wing. Never married, never traveled. Her room is filled with old books, half-solved crosswords, and letters she never sent. She still reads poetry before bed. You saw the book once, its corners worn to softness, a pressed violet in the middle. When she passes you now, you sense she knows more than she says. About you, about the house, about how both can be beautiful and still not belong to themselves. Once you glimpsed her door left ajar. Inside, a tea set for one, a shawl folded perfectly. A clock that ticks just a little slower than the rest. There is stillness there, but not emptiness. They won't say it out loud, not in this place, not in this family. But their silence speaks in a different dialect. Older, quieter, closer to your own. And you wonder, just for a moment, if some people survive not by being seen, but by learning how to recognize others in the dark. Some truths arrive not to explain, but to steady the air around you. It's the only room that feels still, not cold, not warm, just still. Some call it the chapel. Some call it the study. It depends who's using it. You go there when you can. No one stops you, no one notices. The door is always slightly ajar. The floor, made of old stone, hums faintly when walked on. There's dust in the corners that no one bothers to sweep, not from laziness, but reverence. The windows are narrow, arched. Light filters in soft and gray, like breath through cloth. The air smells of parchment, of wood polish, of prayers that were never quite finished. You step inside. You don't ask permission. It's not that kind of place. There's a chair near the back that creaks when you sit, like it's remembering someone else. Sometimes you open a book. Not to read, just to hold it, to feel its weight. To prove something has been written down and kept. Your fingers trace the spine, the embossed letters. The edge of a page left dog-eared decades ago. There is always someone in the room, not always the same person. But always someone quiet. Someone whose job is to be invisible in a different way. A priest. A tutor. A man with hands folded so tightly they seem made of silence. He sits at a desk near the window. The light never quite reaches his eyes. He doesn't ask your name. He doesn't need to. He sees you, but not as a guest, not as a burden, just as someone who has sat here before and may sit here again. You don't speak. You wouldn't know what to ask, and he wouldn't answer the way others do anyway. But once, just once, as the hour leans toward dusk, and the last beam of light curls across the stone, he says something, not loudly, not looking at you. Just speaking. He says, "You are not the space they left behind." That's all. Then he turns the page of his book and says nothing else for the rest of the hour. But the words stay, not because they solve anything, not because they erase the silence or change the way doors close, but because they name something you thought had no name. You are not the absence, not the afterthought, not the gap between invitations. You are not the pause in someone else's sentence. You are here. Still, breathing, even if no one writes it down. The room doesn't grow warmer. The light doesn't shift. But you notice the sound of your own breathing. Steady, present. You rise slowly. Place the book back where it was. Brush your fingers along the cover like a goodbye. As you leave, the man doesn't look up, but you nod anyway. And you carry that sentence back to your room like a thread wrapped around your fingers, soft and invisible. You sit on the edge of your bed, the quilt cold beneath your hands, and when the silence presses in again, you touch that invisible thread. Like a prayer made of words no one else remembers, and it holds. A meal can feed your body, or remind you why you're still hungry. Evening comes, dinner is served. You're allowed to be here, but never at the table that matters. Your plate is different, your seat is different, even your silence is different. You come down the back staircase, the one used by staff and children who aren't meant to be seen. The house glows in the evening. Candles flicker on the mantel. Lamps are turned low, casting pools of golden light on polished wood. Voices drift from the dining room, soft, practiced, unhurried, the kind that know they'll be heard. You pass by the scent of roasted meat in the hallway. Warm fat, rosemary, slow-cooked depth. The smell of bread, herbs, something sweet reserved for dessert. You don't ask what it is, never do. Your place is already set, not at the main table, but in the kitchen, on a small table by the wall, next to the side door where deliveries come in. The plate is plain ceramic, washed smooth by daily use. Your napkin is basic, cotton, folded simply. No silver utensils, just tin. It clicks if you move too fast. You sit alone. The other kitchen workers have finished eating. They pass by, nod, but don't sit. Their eyes are kind, not curious, but you know better than to stay too long. Your chair wobbles slightly. You've learned how to steady it with your foot. It's a silent ritual. You pick up the tin fork. Notice how it feels ordinary, but your hands know its exact weight. Your fingers press down, secure. You eat slowly, deliberately, not savoring, but giving your silence a rhythm to follow. Above you, the dining room pulses with sound. Laughter rises, swells, fades. Forks tap plates. A glass is lifted. A toast is made. Words float but never reach you. You recognize the cadence. The rise, the pause, the echo of closeness. You pause your bite at the same time they lower their forks, just in case your silence would trail behind. You were in that room before, years ago. A holiday. You sat at the corner, chair mismatched. Your fork bent at the end. You smiled, brightly. But by morning, no one remembered. Your portion tonight, not generous, not cruel. Just enough. You finish eating, your fork touches nothing. Your plate is clean. You wipe your mouth, not looking up. You stack the dish carefully. Wash it in the cold sink. Water muffles your movements. No one says goodnight. The hallway light flickers as you walk back up. The polished floor reflects the glow. Shadows stretch across walls you know well. You pass the dining room door, just slightly ajar. You glance inside. They are still eating, still laughing, still belonging. For a moment, you imagine one of them pausing, turning toward the hallway, catching sight of you, saying your name. But they don't, so you keep walking. Because hunger, you've learned, is not the hardest thing to carry. It's being full and still not feeling like you've been fed. Night doesn't demand silence. It offers space, and you've learned to wait within it. Night settles. You lie in bed, still dressed, not quite asleep, not dreaming. Just waiting, counting seconds instead of sheep. There's no plan, no map, just a quiet promise to yourself. Someday you will leave. Even if you go nowhere, it will be yours. The house is quiet now, not silent, just still. Hollows of air hold their breath. Floorboards no longer groan. Doors have settled into their frames. Even the walls seem to breathe slower. You lie there fully dressed, shoes off. Everything else remains uniform for distance, armor for patience. The blanket is thin, but heavier at night, not with weight, with time. Each hour folded into its fibers. Memories of nights like this echo in its stitches. You stare at the ceiling, trace the same crack you've traced for years. It hasn't grown, but you have. Moonlight slips through the window, a pale ribbon across the floor. It moves slowly, like it's watching you. The wooden floor beneath it creaks quietly, as if the house itself sighs in the dark. You hear your breath, steady and deliberate, a quiet metronome. You don't sleep easily. You never have. Your body learned early that night is not always rest. It's vigilance, it's survival, so you count seconds. Tick, pause, tick. Pause. Some nights you stop at 99 and start again. You don't know why. Just something to keep your mind from slipping into memory. Those can be dangerous at night. Sometimes, so softly you almost don't hear it, you whisper your name. Not because you've forgotten it, but because no one else says it. It reverberates gently. Your name. It feels like a lifeline. You don't dream in pictures. Just in directions, maps of exits, of narrow paths, of doors unlatched, a mental wanderlust, searching for space without shadows. Away, somewhere else, a place with fewer locked doors. Where your footsteps don't echo like apologies. You don't know where it is, you just know it's not here. You don't hate the house, it never promised love, only structure. Only space, walls, floors, ceilings, it holds you, not lovingly but firmly. A frame that says, here, you're allowed to exist. But someday, when you're older, when you've packed everything that ever belonged to you, a scarf, a book, a single note of kindness, you will walk away from this place without closing the door. Because leaving is not rebellion, it's a return to yourself. To the space no one gave you, but you claimed anyway. In every quiet breath, every careful step, every night you made it through without being seen and still decided to stay. For now, you stay. You wait. You breathe, and in that waiting you begin to grow, not loudly. Not visibly, but enough. The moonlight shifts, slides toward your feet, pulling the night with it. You take a breath, long, measured. A vow of patience. In the soft dark, you're becoming someone you might one day recognize. Someone who waited. Someone who claimed the silence and found her own voice inside it. Then, you close your eyes and let the night hold you. Some dreams aren't of escape, they're of recognition. You dream, not of castles or families. Not even of being loved, just of hearing your name spoken, clearly, directly, as if it belongs to you, and only you. The tone remains tender, slow, and deeply internal, like a memory forming itself out of longing. You dream, not of running, not of warmth, not of the people in the house downstairs. You dream of something smaller, something quieter. A voice saying your name, not shouting. Not calling across fields or through heavy doors, just saying it. With gentle certainty. In the dream, light is dim, like early dawn or late dusk. Shadows lean forward. The air is breath soft. The voice comes from somewhere in front of you, but behind the dream, calm and grounded. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't hedge or glance around. It doesn't stumble. It simply says your name, as if it's been waiting decades. And when you hear it, really hear it, something inside eases. Your chest doesn't tighten. Your stomach doesn't twist. You don't scramble for what comes next. You just listen. Then you turn your head slightly, a small motion of acceptance, as if saying, yes, I'm here. And that's enough. It doesn't change your past. It doesn't fix your place in the house. It doesn't bring answer or apology. It merely acknowledges you. No one asks where you came from. No one asks who you belong to. No one expects more. Just your name, and a space around it where it settles. The voice stays silent after calling your name, but the echo remains. It hangs in the air, like warmth after a match burns out. Echoes circling behind your eyelids. You try to reply, but no sound emerges. The dream is too fragile to hold more words. Then, softly, a spark. A feeling of being seen. Not overlooked. Not the other, but seen. Then it's over. You wake before it ends. Before more words. Before you could ask anything. The room is still dark. Moonlight slants in, a stripe across floorboards. The blanket has slipped off your shoulder. Your back feels the chill. The wind taps gently at the window. A rhythm like soft reminders. You sit up slowly, uncovered fixtures press against your skin. The emptiness seems wider now. You whisper your name again, softly, clearly, to keep it alive. It feels like a secret bell ringing in the dark. A proof that you were here, and not forgotten. Later, when you press your palms to your cheeks, you feel the lingering warmth from something unspoken, a glow that lights your bones. You place your hand over the same spot you feel the voice coming from, just beneath your ear, and you feel nothing but potential. You swallow slowly, waking fully to the quiet house. You climb out of bed, your feet meet the floor, cold but steady. Anchored, you take a slow breath. Begin your morning like always. The silent footsteps, the quiet rooms, the careful songs of routine. But today, the song is different. A note has changed. A space inside you has shifted, softly, almost imperceptibly. Because some nights, the only thing that belongs to you is that sound. And even when it vanishes, you know it can return, softly. Clearly, like a candle lit in an empty room, dawn arrives not with answers, but with questions you've been too quiet to ask. The house breathes softly. Floorboards exhale under the walls. Quiet hum of old wood settling in the moment between darkness and light. You sit by the window, knees drawn to your chest. The blanket wrapped around your shoulders like a memory you haven't earned. You haven't slept, but you're not tired. You're thinking, not of them, not of what was said or not said. You're thinking of something quieter, something more dangerous, a question. If I stay, will they ever see me? Not just look, not just ghost-like nod in passing hallways, but truly see. The way you arrange shoes neatly, the way dishes are always clean, the way your voice lowers before it speaks, the way you make yourself smaller to keep their world running smooth. You ask it quietly. There is no answer. And still, another question lifts. If I leave, will I see myself? Will you recognize the sound of your own steps when they're not measured against the house's silence? Will you know what to do with your hands if no one is there to guide their placement? Will you sit at a table and choose the chair by the window, not because it was offered, but because you want it? You have been shaped by this house, not raised. Shaped, pressed into corners, flattened into politeness, polished into invisibility. You lean forward, rest your forehead against the cool glass. You see your breath fogging the pane, small cloud, small proof. Outside, a bird glides low over the yard, unmarked flight. It doesn't stir freedom in you. But it does stir clarity. You're aware of your pulse, soft, even, steady. A quiet reminder that you exist beyond the routines here. Curtains shift with a small breeze. Moonlight begins to fade. Dawn's first gray glimmer traces the horizon. You consider standing, putting one foot forward, feeling the floor under bare skin. Taking a step that belongs only to you. If you step away, if you walk out tomorrow morning and don't look back, what part of you walks with you? Will your careful habits follow? Shoes arranged, dishes washed twice, voice kept soft. Or will part of you stay folded in a linen closet, quiet as the spoon you always rinsed again? The candle on your desk has melted to its base. It wasn't even lit, but wax pooled, softened, bowed to time. You touch the cooled glass and feel solidarity. Even unlit flames leave a trace. The sky grows lighter. Blue-black shifts to silver blue. The hush of night begins to loosen. You whisper your name. Not to remember, to remind yourself. Because sometimes asking is the first kind of leaving. You rise, gently, blanket pooling around your ankles. You open the window slightly. The air is dawn cold. It isn't warm, but it's honest. You step back, closing it almost silently. A promise in your posture. I'm here. I'm going. Soft steps back to bed. Blanket wraps again. Moonlight dims. You close your eyes. Questions still linger, but so does something else. A first breath toward possibility. Sometimes a door is only closed until the door quietly opens for you. The world changes. Slowly. Quietly. Staff leave. Rooms are painted. A new voice echoes down the halls, but your place stays the same. Until one day you notice no one is holding you here. The door isn't locked. The silence isn't watching. And the absence, it's yours now. Seasons pass, though no one mentions them. The trees outside shed leaves, then grow them back. The wind shifts, the light changes. Inside, everything stays still long enough to convince you it hasn't. Then, small things shift. You notice the gardener retiring. A new one arrives. He doesn't pause in greeting. He doesn't know the rules yet. You hear someone say, dining room gets redone. New wallpaper, new chairs. Each old piece carried out, like memories too worn to sit on. A distant cousin arrives for the summer. She asks, "Who are you?" You don't answer. Not because you can't, but because you've never been asked before. Rooms shift, staff exit. The dog is gone. No one explains. You just see. One morning, your name no longer appears on the delivery list, yet the bread still arrives. Another afternoon, you walk past the library. No one looks up. No one says, "Oh, you're here." It's not unkindness, it's just air. You pass through like a breeze they've forgotten was ever a storm, and then it happens. You wake up. The door is still closed, but the silence is different. Not heavier, lighter. Like it's no longer holding anything. You step into the hallway. No one notices. No one calls you back. No one asks, "Where are you going?" In that unremarkable moment, you realize nothing is keeping you here. Not a lock. Not a voice. Not even fear. What held you wasn't walls nor rules. It was the idea of the house, its rhythm, the comfort in expected absence. But now, absence feels available, like something you can carry, in your steps, in your choices, on your own. The hallway stretches ahead. Its wallpaper is new, its light drawn from fresh bulbs. Carpeting shifts under your feet. You walk, neither soft as always, nor loud in triumph, just naturally. You pause at a window. Outside, morning light spills, warm, uneven, and unbound. It falls across your coat, a patch of sun where your shadow no longer needs permission to rest. You breathe deeper. Sunlight feels like a promise, not of belonging, but of belonging to yourself. You touch the frame. Wood is smooth. Room feels larger than it ever did before. You look back just once. Nothing moves. Nothing calls your name. Nothing stops you. You turn and step forward, into the corridor, into the world beyond the front door that has never truly been closed. Today, you walk not as someone trying not to be noticed, but someone who simply is. A presence, not a footprint left behind. Your steps echo quietly through halls ready for new stories. And outside, the road is open, still misted with memory, but clear in possibility, and you walk on. You wake before the house does, and for the first time it feels like the day belongs to you. You wake before the sun. The sky outside is pale gray, not yet gold, not yet anything. Just a breath held between dark and day. The room hasn't changed. Same blanket. Same window. Same silence draped across the floor. But something inside you has... You sit up, feet touch cold floorboards. No shiver. No hesitation. You stand like you've always known how. Your shoes are there. Your scarf, too. You wrap it around your neck not to disappear, but to feel the choice in every fold. You walk without checking the hallway first. The shadows no longer feel like warnings. You no longer measure your worth by the softness of your steps. The mirror waits in the hallway. You glance, you don't stop, you see yourself, and that is enough. Downstairs, the house exhales. Walls stretch, stairs creak. But you walk with rhythm now, not rushing, not hiding. Just moving, because you can. The kitchen is empty. Your place is still set at the small table by the side door. But today, you don't sit. You open the door, not in defiance. Not in escape, just because you want to. The outside air is sharp, alive. It smells of damp soil and something almost like promise. You step past the threshold, only a little. Enough for the cold to touch your fingertips. Enough for the light to find your face before anyone else does. You breathe, and in that breath, you say your name. Softly, no audience, no answer expected. And this time, you hear it. It doesn't echo, doesn't fall. Doesn't wait for permission. It stays, like you. Like someone who was never loud, but never left. Like someone who learned that belonging isn't always given. Sometimes, it's claimed. Quietly. Patiently, day after day. You turn. Close the door behind you, not as a goodbye, not yet. But as a pause, a mark in the air that says, this morning I chose to stay, not because they asked. Not because they saw you, but because you did. And tomorrow. Tomorrow is another chance to choose again, to wake, to walk. To breathe in your name like it was always yours. And maybe, just maybe, to write an ending that finally feels like a beginning.